I hit play on that voice memo at 2 a.m., the kind of hour where the city's hum outside my window in Brooklyn sounded like a distant accusation, and Ethan's voice, my fiancé's voice, smooth as the whiskey we'd shared at our engagement party 6 months back, crackled through the speaker. Sophia, God, I can't keep pretending. I still love you. Every time I look at Amelia, it's your ghost I see, and this wedding? It's just a bandage on the wound you left. The words landed like a sucker punch from a cop I'd never seen coming, because I'd spent the last 3 years building a life with him, only to realize I'd been the fool holding the knife to my own throat. And in that frozen second, as the recording looped back to silence, I didn't cry. I grabbed my laptop and started digging, because if Ethan thought he could bury his secrets under our shared Netflix queue and Sunday brunches, he'd forgotten I was the one who'd covered his ass when he embezzled from his firm's client funds 2 years ago, taking the heat as his overzealous assistant to keep his golden boy status intact. That voice memo wasn't just a slip. It was the crack in the foundation of everything I'd built, a seismic shift that turned our cozy 2-bedroom in Williamsburg into a goddamn war zone overnight. I'd met Ethan at a rooftop mixer in Manhattan, back when I was still grinding as a junior prosecutor in the DA's office, fresh out of Fordham Law with stars in my eyes and a chip on my shoulder from growing up in a Rust Belt town where dreams went to die under factory smokestacks. He was the hotshot defense attorney, all Ivy League polish and easy charm, the kind of guy who could quote Hemingway while negotiating plea deals that kept scumbags out of Rikers. We clicked like puzzle pieces forged in the same fire, ambitious, a little ruthless, both chasing that elusive American dream of corner offices and white picket fences in the suburbs someday. But that night, as I sat cross-legged on our king-sized bed with sheets that still smelled like his cologne, the betrayal hit deeper than the words. It wasn't just that he loved Sophia, his ex from law school, the one who dumped him for a tech bro in Silicon Valley and then ghosted him when the startup tanked. No, it was the casual cruelty of it, the way he'd woven me into his redemption arc without ever letting me in on the script. I'd given up nights poring over case files to cook him dinners, laughed off his late hours at the firm as building our future. And worst of all, I'd lied for him. That embezzlement scheme? It was his idea, siphoning just enough from a wealthy client's trust to cover his gambling debts from those high-stakes poker nights in Atlantic City. I discovered the discrepancies during a routine audit I was running for the firm. Irony of ironies, since I was moonlighting as their compliance consultant to pad my salary. When the shit hit the fan, he'd begged me, tears in his eyes, promising it was a one-time mistake, that he loved me, that we'd make it right together. So I fudged the reports, signed off on the falsified ledgers, and when the client sued, I let the blame roll downhill onto me. Amelia's error, the official story went. I got a slap on the wrist, a 6-month suspension from practicing law, a black mark on my record that killed my promotion dreams. And he got a quiet promotion because who suspects the golden boy? Now, staring at my phone like it was a venomous snake, I felt the weight of that secret pressing down, a stone in my gut heavier than the 2-carat diamond on my finger. I should have confronted him right then, stormed into the living room where he was passed out on the couch after another networking event. But rage has a way of sharpening your edges, turning grief into something surgical. Instead, I opened my laptop and started with Sophia. A quick LinkedIn search pulled her up. Sophia Hale, now a corporate litigator at a boutique firm in Midtown, profile pic all sleek bob and power suit, posts about empowering women in law that made my stomach turn. From there, it was a rabbit hole. Old Facebook tags from their Columbia days, a wedding announcement for her, and that tech bro that had crashed and burned last year, per a Discreet People magazine blurb about Silicon Valley scandals. And then, buried in a forgotten group chat screenshot from a mutual friend, a photo of Ethan and Sophia at a holiday party last Christmas, arms around each other, his hand on her waist like it belonged there. While I was home wrapping gifts, he'd been rewriting history. By dawn, as the first gray light filtered through the blinds, I'd mapped it out. Ethan's flip-flops weren't new. He'd done this before, charmed his way into hearts, extracted what he needed, then pivoted when the shine wore off. Sophia had been his first big score, funding his law school apps with her family's connections. When she left, he'd latched onto me, the scrappy underdog who'd fight his battles without asking too many questions. But the real gut punch? That voice memo wasn't meant for his sister at all. I'd listened again, frame by frame, and caught the timestamp. Sent to sis. But the audio file metadata showed it originated from a draft labeled soft_union_ideas. He'd been plotting a comeback, and I was the collateral damage. Ethan stirred around 8 a.m., shuffling into the kitchen in his boxers, that boyish grin plastered on like nothing had shattered. "Morning, babe. Coffee." He leaned in for a kiss, but I sidestepped, feigning a yawn. "Late night?" I asked, voice steady as a jury summation. He shrugged, pouring his mug black. "Yeah, the partners kept us till midnight. Big case closing. Lies. Always the lies, smooth as the crema on his espresso." I nodded, watching him scroll his phone, oblivious to the storm brewing. That day, I called in sick to my reinstated paralegal gig, demotion after the scandal, and spent it building my arsenal. First, a burner phone from a bodega on Bedford Avenue, prepaid and anonymous. Then, a deep dive into Ethan's firm emails, courtesy of the backdoor I'd never closed for my compliance days. Jackpot. Threads with Sophia, innocuous on the surface. Coffee to discuss mutual client? But laced with nostalgia, bait-like. Remember that dive bar in Hell's Kitchen? By evening, when he came home with Thai takeout and apologies for being distant, stress, you know, I played along, laughing at his jokes, curling into him on the couch like the dutiful fiancé. But inside, the plan crystallized. Revenge wasn't about screaming or slashing tires. It was about mirrors, holding one up so he saw the monster he'd made. I'd expose him, not just to Sophia, but to the world he'd curated so carefully. The embezzlement? I'd plant the seeds of doubt, anonymous tips to the Bar Association, forged docs that traced the money trail back to his poker buddies. But first, I needed leverage. That night, as he slept, I slipped into his study and copied his hard drive. Files upon files of shady deals, not just the old one but new ones. Kickbacks from a real estate developer. Witness tampering notes scribbled in margins. Ethan wasn't just a cheater. He was a cancer, metastasizing through the justice system we both swore to uphold. The next week blurred into a tense tango. Publicly, we were the perfect couple. Instagram posts from a weekend in the Hamptons, my hand on his knee at a firm gala, whispers of a spring wedding at City Hall. Privately, I was a ghost in my own life, shadowing his moves. I followed him one rainy Tuesday to a cafe in Soho, watched from across the street as he met Sophia. Not for coffee, but for a hushed argument that ended with her slapping his cheek, him grabbing her wrist a beat too long. Jealousy? No, clarity. She knew his game, had walked away once, and now he was dragging her back into the muck. That image fueled me. Her defiance, his desperation. I snapped photos with my burner, timestamps etched like indictments. But doubt crept in, the first fracture in my resolve. Was I any better? Covering for him had stained my soul, turned me from idealist to enabler. Late nights, I'd stare at the ceiling fan whirring like accusations, wondering if love was just another con we played on ourselves. Ethan sensed the shift, of course, his questions grew pointed. "You okay, Ames?" Seemed distant. I'd smile, kiss his temple. Just wedding jitters. Lies beget lies, a cycle as American as apple pie and Ponzi schemes. Then came the first move. I sent Sophia an anonymous email from a ghost account. The voice memo attached no note, just the raw audio. Watched from afar as her socials went dark for days, then a single post. A black square with the caption, "Truth cuts deeper than fiction." Ethan unraveled subtly. Canceled dinners, snapped at associates, his charm cracking like cheap veneer. He confronted his sister over brunch. "Did you hear something weird?" And she, bless her Midwestern bluntness, played dumb. But I knew. The hook was set. As October chills seeped into the brownstones, I escalated. Planted a tip with an investigative blogger at the Post, vague enough to peak. Corruption at Preston and Hale. Follow the poker chips. The article dropped mid-month, a teaser piece on questionable finances at his firm, naming no names but dropping Ethan's poker alias like bait. He came home white-knuckled, ranting about witch hunts, collapsing into my arms like I was his savior. What if it tanks us, Ames? The wedding, everything. I held him, whispering, "We'll fight it together." Even as my mind tallied the countdown, 3 months till vows, 3 strikes till he broke. The tension built like a nor'easter, winds howling off the East River. Friends noticed. Our circle of lawyerly cynics at trivia nights, probing with everything good? Ethan deflected with jokes, but I saw the shadows under his eyes, the way he'd check his phone every 5 minutes. Sophia resurfaced in his life, a ghost turned specter. Missed calls from her number, deleted texts I recovered showing please. We can't, Ethan. Amelia doesn't deserve this. Deserve. The word mocked me. Did I deserve the fall I'd taken for him? The career nosedive, the whispers in courtrooms that followed me like bad cologne? One night, after a bottle of Cabernet, he cracked. We were on the fire escape, city lights twinkling like distant jury boxes, and he spilled. Sophia's back in town. For good. Her marriage imploded, and… shit. Ames, I don't know. Half confession, all cowardice. I pressed, gentle as a cross-exam. You still feel something? He hesitated, that telltale pause then. It's complicated. You're my rock. Rock. I'd been his shield, his alibi, his fool. I nodded, feigning understanding, but inside, the verdict formed. Guilty on all counts. That fracture widened into a chasm the day I uncovered the real secret, the one that made his betrayal not just personal but criminal. Buried in his copied files was a folder labeled contingency, emails to a fixer in Jersey, payments for disappearing, evidence in a case against that real estate developer. The developer? Tied to city council bribes, the kind that could topple administrations. And Ethan's role? Not just enabler, but architect. He'd framed a rival attorney, me, indirectly, by leaking my past indiscretions to muddy the waters when suspicions arose. I'd borne the whispers, the stalled cases, thinking it karma for my own lie. But no, he'd sacrificed me, twice over, to protect his climb. Rage, pure and unfiltered, coursed through me like adrenaline in a closing argument. This wasn't love's casualty, it was war. I contacted an old mentor at the DA's, off books, feeding her crumbs. Look into Preston and Hale. Start with the trusts. She bit, her voice gravelly over the line. Amelia, this could burn you too. I laughed, bitter. Already ashes. As Thanksgiving loomed, with turkey plans at his parents' in Connecticut, I set the trap. Invited Sophia to coffee, anonymous at first, then revealing myself over lattes in a crowded Starbucks. Her eyes widened, shock, then pity. He told me you knew. About the memo. Lies again. We talked, raw and real. Her regrets, his manipulations, the way he'd played us both like pawns in his chess game of ambition. He's poison, she said, voice low. But you're stronger. Was I? Leaving felt like surrender, staying like suicide. No, revenge meant playing his game better. That night, Ethan proposed we elope, Vegas, quick and dirty, before the stress kills us. His eyes pleaded, but I saw the calculation. Lock me in before the walls closed. I said yes, sealing the noose. The flight was booked, the justice of the peace on standby. But en route, at JFK, I slipped away to a restroom stall, dialing the blogger. Full story tomorrow. Names included. Then, to Sophia. Tell him the truth. Tonight. The plane touched down in the city of sin under neon haze, but Ethan's phone buzzed relentless. Sophia, his sister, the firm. By the time we hit the strip, he was unraveling, barking into the receiver. What do you mean, audit? I watched from the hotel bar, Bellagio fountains dancing like mocking applause, as his world imploded via live feed from my burner. The twist? I'd leaked to Sophia too, not just the memo but the files. Her firm's rival, she'd forward it all, a double tap. He found me there, face ashen, grabbing my arm. Ames, it's bullshit. Someone's framing me. I pulled free, voice ice. Like you framed me? The confession hung, a guillotine blade. His eyes darted, denial, then dawning horror. The embezzlement. You knew. Laughter escaped me, hollow. I fixed it, Ethan. For you. The bar blurred as he begged, promised reform, but the cops were already en route. My final tip, timed like a verdict. Handcuffs clicked under the casino lights, his pleas echoing. Amelia, don't do this. But I did, walking out into the desert night, diamond discarded in a slot machine tray. Revenge tasted like freedom, sharp and unforgiving. Yet as the cab sped toward the airport, doubt whispered, was I the villain now, architect of his fall? The city receded, a glittering lie, and I wondered if we'd both lose. Vegas faded in the rearview like a fever dream, the cab's AC blasting cold truth into my face as I booked the red-eye back to New York. Ethan's arrest hit the wires before takeoff. Prominent attorney busted for fraud in Sin City sting, and by morning, my inbox overflowed with concerned texts from our circle. What happened? You okay? The wedding? I ghosted them all, holing up in a no-tell motel on the outskirts of Queens, the kind with flickering neon and stains you don't ask about. No more Williamsburg hipster haven. This was rock bottom, raw and real, the underbelly of the American hustle where dreams curdled into nightmares. Sleep evaded me those first nights, the motel's thin walls amplifying every siren wail, every argument from the room next door. I'd replay it all, the slap of handcuffs, Ethan's wild eyes locking on mine like I was his last lifeline, the way he'd mouthed why as they dragged him away.
Why?
Because betrayal isn't a scar, it's a virus, rewriting your code until you strike back or succumb. I'd chosen the blade, and now the blood was on my hands. Metaphorical, sure, but in the court of public opinion, it might as well be crimson. The Post ran a follow-up. Fiancé's tip leads to bust. Inside the betrayal. Anonymous sources, my ass. Whispers pointed my way. The jilted bride turned snitch. Sophia reached out via a new number. Hers. Unblocked now that the game's afoot.
Amélia, Jesus.
I didn't know about the deeper shit. He roped me in last month, said it was harmless consulting with the developer. Her voice cracked over the line, that polished litigator tone fraying at the edges. We met in a park off the FDR, benches slick with November drizzle, hot dogs from a cart steaming between us like fragile truces. She looked wrecked, dark circles, hair in a hasty ponytail, far from the Instagram warrior. I thought I could save him, she admitted, picking at the bun. Like before. But he's
broken.
Always has been. Broken. The word hung, a shared indictment. Sophia spilled her side. Their law school whirlwind, his charm masking the gambler's itch, the way he'd proposed to her once, ring from a client windfall that turned out fenced. She'd bolted when the feds knocked, leaving him to scrape by until I came along, the stable one, the fixer. You deserved better, she said, eyes meeting mine with something like solidarity. But solidarity in betrayal's wake is a double-edged sword. It binds you in complicity. I told her about the embezzlement cover-up, my suspension, the way he'd leaked my instability to derail my cases. Her jaw tightened. Bastard. I'll testify if it comes to that. It did come to that, faster than a hung jury. Ethan's arraignment was a circus. Cameras flashing in the federal courthouse on Pearl Street, reporters shouting questions as I slipped in the back row, incognito in a borrowed trench and shades. He looked smaller in the dock, orange jumpsuit clashing with his pallor, lawyer, a slick public defender, muttering motions. When the judge read the charges, wire fraud, bribery, conspiracy, Ethan's gaze swept the gallery, landing on me like a gavel's crack. Accusation, plea, hatred, all in one stare. I held it unflinching, the weight of our shared sins pressing down. Bail was denied, flight risk, they said, citing his Atlantic City tabs and a one-way ticket to Aruba in his browser history. The media frenzy peaked. Think pieces on toxic ambition in big law, podcasts dissecting the Vegas vows that weren't. Our friends picked sides, some ghosted me, loyal to his silver tongue. Others, like my old roommate Jess, showed up with takeout and tequila. Fuck him, Ames. You did what you had to. But had I? Nights in that motel, scrolling bail fund GoFundMes for Ethan, started by his sister. Naive as ever, I questioned the cost. My job? Gone. Paralegal gig axed amid conflict of interest. Savings? Drained on burners and lawyers consulting off books. And the twist gnawing. What if exposure dragged me down too? My cover-up was accessory after the fact. One subpoena, and I'd be in cuffs beside him. Ethan's first letter arrived via his attorney, a manila envelope thick with desperation. Amelia, it began, handwriting shaky. I get it now. The memo was weakness, not truth. Sophia's a habit, you're my home. Help me fight this. Your word could sway the plea. Pages of remorse, promises of therapy, a future post-prison where we'd rebuild stronger. I burned it in the motel's sink, watching flames lick the lies, but embers of doubt lingered. Was there a sliver of the man I'd loved in there, buried under the con? Or was it all performance, even from a cell? The reckoning deepened when the developer flipped, Ethan's partner in crime, a paunchy politico named Harlan Voss, singing like a canary to shave years off his sentence. His deal implicated Ethan fully, but also named me. The fiancé knew. Helped bury the first traces. Panic surged, hot and immediate. I bolted the motel, crashing on Jess's couch in Astoria, her Greek ma's spanakopita, a poor balm for the paranoia. Reporters sniffed around. A tabloid doored me with, was she in on it? My mentor called. DA's circling, Ames. Come clean voluntary. Mitigate the damage. Voluntary surrender? The idea twisted like a plea bargain gone sour. Instead, I flipped the script, meeting Voss's attorney in a dim diner off Route 1, cash from my emergency stash greasing the table. Tell Harlan to recant the fiancé bit, I said, voice low. Or I go public with his offshore accounts, Cuban ties, embargo violations. Bluff. Half. I'd hacked Voss's emails via Ethan's files, enough dirt to bury a cartel. The lawyer blinked, then nodded. For a price. 20 grand wired by dawn. By noon, Voss's statement clarified. I was uninformed collateral. Relief was fleeting. Ethan's next play came swift. From lockup, he leaked to a gossip site. An exclusive interview painting me as the mastermind, jilted lover turned vendetta queen. She set me up after the memo, he claimed, tears in the transcript. Framed me to destroy what we had. The internet erupted, justice for Ethan trending, incels and true crime bros decrying feminazi revenge porn. Threats flooded my inboxes, slurs, doxes, one promising, a .38 special for the backstabber. Jess barricaded the door, but fear rooted deep, a vine choking resolve. Sophia became unlikely ally, her firm's resources shielding me, cease and desist to the rags, a PI tailing Ethan's sympathizers. Over wine in her Tribeca loft, skyline mocking our wreckage, she confessed. He tried the same with me. After the breakup, accused me of theft to his family. It's his pattern. Flip the blame, play victim.
Pattern.
The word unlocked it all. Ethan as chameleon, shedding skins to survive, leaving husks like us in his wake. We end it, I said. Full exposure. We compiled the dossier. Ethan's files, Voss's recants, Sophia's testimony on the consulting. Fed it to the feds anonymously, with a flourish, a USB drop at the courthouse, labeled the full house. The poker metaphor, his vice turned vice. Indictments expanded, RICO charges, tying him to a network of crooked developers. His bail fund dried, sister stopped calling. But the personal toll mounted. Christmas approached, streets strung with lights that felt like nooses. Jess dragged me to her family's feast, lamb and look-a-maids, toasts to resilience, but I excused early, wandering snow-dusted sidewalks, Ethan's ring box heavy in my pocket. I'd kept it, a talisman or curse. In a moment of weakness, I texted him via the lawyer. Merry Christmas.
Rot.
No reply.
Good.
January brought the prelim hearing, a steel-gray morning in Foley Square. I testified, voice steady under fluorescent glare. He manipulated me into the cover-up, then discarded me. Cross-exam was brutal, defense painting me hysterical, scorned. Jurors shifted, eyes judging. Outside, protesters clashed, Ethan's bros versus victims' advocates. Sophia flanked me, arm linked. You got this. Did I? The gavel fell, bind over for trial. Victory, Pyrrhic. Yet as we exited, Ethan shouted from the pen. Amelia? I did it for us. Lie or lunacy? His eyes, wild, held a flicker. Regret? Or the next con? I turned away, but the seed planted. What if his love, twisted as it was, had kernels of truth? The reckoning wasn't his alone. Mine brewed, a storm on the horizon. Trial prep turned Manhattan into a pressure cooker, the kind where ambitions steam and explode under the weight of spotlights. Ethan's case ballooned into a spectacle, federal courtroom packed with suits and spectators, cable news vans idling like sharks outside the Thurgood Marshall Building. I was key witness now, subpoenaed and spotlit, my life dissected on Dateline previews, from bride-to-be to betrayer. The woman who took down her fiancé. The moniker stuck, a scarlet letter in pixels, branding me villain or vigilante, depending on the feed. Sophia and I formed an uneasy war council, holing up in her loft with takeout foe and legal pads scribbled like battle maps. She'd flipped fully, resigned from her firm to consult pro bono on white-collar takedowns. Her empowerment posts now rants on systemic rot. Ethan's the symptom, she'd say, pacing with a Merlot slosh. Big law's the disease. Win at all costs, consequences be damned. I nodded, but her zeal chafed. Was she atoning for loving him once, or just chasing her own redemption arc? Our alliance frayed at edges, her pushing for a book deal, me balking at the spectacle. This isn't reality TV, I'd snap. It's my life. Ethan's defense pivoted masterfully, his attorney a Fox News alum spinning narratives of feminist overreach. Motions flew, suppressed the voice memo as private, my testimony as biased revenge. Leaks painted me as unstable, history of ethical lapses, dredging my suspension like roadkill. Online, the crossfire raged, subreddits debating, was Amelia hero or harpy, with polls splitting 52 to 48. I read them obsessively, masochistic, each upvote a validation, downvote a dagger. Jess staged an intervention. Log off, Ames. He's winning if you doubt. Doubt was the real antagonist, insidious as humidity in July. Sleepless pre-dawn, I'd pace my sublet in the village, tiny, rent-stabilized, walls thin as resolve, replaying Ethan's I did it for us. For us? The developer bribes funded our down payment, he claimed in depots. The witness tampering shielded our future from scandal. Twisted logic, but it wormed in. Had I enabled the monster, or was he born one? A psych eval for the trial, court-ordered, diagnosed me with adjustment disorder. Fodder for the defense. Unreliable narrator. The prosecution countered fierce, my mentor leading. Elena Vasquez, silver-streaked bulldog who'd mentored me post-mortem. Amelia's not the story. She'd thunder and mocks. Ethan's corruption is. We prepped for weeks, her grilling me on stands, Sophia role-playing cross. But the night before opening, Elena dropped the bomb. Voss is recanting. Says you coerced him. My bluff, biting back. Ethan's reach from jail? Or Voss's greed? Panic clawed. Without Voss, the Rico chain weakened. Opening day dawned brutal. Pouring rain lashing Pearl Street, umbrellas blooming like black lotuses. I slipped in early, heart hammering, the gallery a zoo. Ethan's family stone-faced in the front, sister dabbing eyes, reporters tapping furiously, a smattering of justice for Ethan picketers chanting outside. Ethan entered, shackled but suited, hair pomaded, flashing that courtroom smile, charm dialed to 11. Our eyes met across the divide, his held a glint, not hate, but invitation.
To what? Pardon?
Partnership in perdition? Prosecutors laid foundation. The embezzlement trail, my coerced cover-up as Exhibit A. Elena called me first witness. Post-lunch, the room humming like a hive. I took the stand, oath heavy as manacles, facing Ethan 3 feet away, close enough to smell his aftershave, a ghost of intimacies past. Ms. Rivera, Elena began, describe your relationship. I did, voice measured. Rooftop meet cute, shared dreams, the proposal under fireworks at the 4th on the Hudson. Jurors leaned in, humanizing me, Latina from the Midwest, first-gen lawyer, the underdog bite. Then the gut punch. And the cover-up? I detailed the audit, his tears, my signature on the falsified doc. I thought it was love, I said, glancing at him. He stared back, unblinking, a poker face masking God knows what. Cross came vicious. You benefited too, Ms. Rivera. Promises of partnership a ring. Wasn't this mutual? I faltered. No, he pressured. And the attorney pounced. Pressure or passion? You chose to lie. The gallery murmured. A juror, middle-aged dad type, nodded subtly. Seeding doubt, Ethan's specialty. Afternoons bled into evenings, testimony a gauntlet. Sophia took the stand day 3, poised in pencil skirt, dismantling his consulting as kickbacks. He flipped on me once, she said coolly. Promised reform, then bled my contacts dry. Ethan objected, theatrical. Objection relevance. Sustained but damage done. Voss followed, sweating under lights, recant shaky. I misspoke. No coercion from her. But whispers rippled, paid off. The crossfire intensified. Post-trial, I'd field Elena's pep talks. You're cracking his facade. Off-court, tension coiled tighter. Stalkers emerged. Ethan's poker pal, a burly ex-cop, tailing me to the bodega, muttering snitch bitch. I got a concealed carry permit, Glock heavy in my purse, American paranoia incarnate. Sophia crashed one night, wine-fueled confessions flowing. He wrote me too from jail. Says you're the one who planted the files. Paranoia or ploy? We laughed it off, but trust eroded, her glances lingering, ally or accomplice. Mid-trial twist hit like a mistrial motion, leaked audio. Ethan's voice from a jail call to his sister. Amelia's playing both sides. She wants the book deal, the fame. I still love her, but she's destroying me. Doctored? Authentic? Forensics pending, but the jury heard, poison pill. Protesters swelled outside, splitting. Free Ethan versus lock up the lawyers. I dodged eggs hurled from a pickup, yolk streaking my coat like accusations. Closing loomed, the room electric with verdict vibes. Elena's summation scorched. Ethan Hale built an empire on lies, embezzlement, bribes, betrayal. Amelia Rivera? Victim turned voice of truth. Defense countered, a scorned woman's vendetta, twisting love into litigation. Jurors filed out, faces inscrutable. The dad juror avoided my eye. Deliberation dragged 2 days, city holding breath. I holed in a hotel near Foley, room service my sentinel, Sophia texting updates. Hang tight. On hour 48, buzz, not guilty on RICO, guilty on fraud counts. 20 years, eligible parole in 10. Cheers from advocates, boos from his camp. Ethan, verdict read, turned to me. Not rage, but a nod, almost approving. Well played. His lips mouth. Victory? Or validation of his chaos? Outside, rain eased to mist, reporters swarming. I pushed through, Elena's arms steely. You did it, kid. But elation soured. Sophia bailed last-minute meetup. Family emergency. Her text curt. Paranoia peaked. Had she flipped? Ethan's sister cornered me in the lobby. He says you're the real criminal. Covered for him, then sold him out. Seeds sprouting. That night, alone with cable news recaps, the crossfire internalized. Hero or harpy? The Glock on the nightstand gleamed. A loaded question. Ethan's empire crumbled. But mine? Shards, waiting to cut. Verdict day lingered like hangover fog. The guilty counts a hollow when that echoed through the canyons of lower Manhattan. Ethan shipped off to Otisville that week, federal pen upstate, white-collar haven with golf privileges and therapy groups, his exit a quiet cortege of black SUVs, no fanfare beyond a daily news obit for his career. I watched from a distance, parked in a rental Civic across from the courthouse, engine idling like my pulse. No confrontation, just closure, or so I told myself. But as the gates clanged, a final text from his lawyer pinged my burner. He wants you to know, the memo was real. But so was us. Cryptic as a hung jury, it lodged like shrapnel. Life post-trial was reconstruction on a fault line, shaky, prone to quakes. Elena pulled strings for a job at a nonprofit, pro bono for fraud victims, ironic penance in a glass-walled office overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge. Pay sucked, but purpose flickered, helping whistleblowers navigate the backlash, turning my scars into shields. Jess threw a fuck Ethan party in her Astoria brownstone. Ouzo shots, bad karaoke of Taylor Swift anthems, but I nursed one drink, faking laughs. Sophia ghosted fully. Her last email a polite severance. Needs space to heal. You're stronger than you know. Stronger? Or just scarred, the kind that itches under skin. Spring thawed the city, dogwoods blooming in Washington Square like defiant middle fingers to winter's grip. I dated tentatively, a barista with tattoos and trust issues, an adjunct prof who quoted Auden, but intimacy felt like perjury, every touch a cross-exam. Therapy helped, twice weekly with Dr. Rao, a no-nonsense shrink from Mumbai via Colombia. Revenge was agency, Amelia. But forgiveness? That's freedom. Forgiveness, for him? The idea curdled. For me? Maybe. I journaled it out, pages filling with what-ifs. What if I'd confronted the memo head-on, chosen dialogue over destruction? Ethan's appeals dragged, motions piling like snowdrifts. His sister, ever the bridge builder, reached out via LinkedIn. Coffee? Neutral ground, a cafe in neutral Chelsea. She looked older, lines etched by loyalty's toll. He's adjusting. Writes about you. I stiffened. Don't. But curiosity won. She slid an envelope, his latest letter. I read it in the park after. Benches warmed by tentative sun. Ames, Otisville's a mirror, reflecting the man I hid from you, from myself. The bribes? Desperation to match your fire. The memo? Cowardice. But the love? Real, until I poisoned it. Forgive me, not for me, but for you. Tears blurred ink. Rage followed. Real love doesn't frame, doesn't flip. I shredded it, fed strips to a Central Park pigeon, but fragments stuck, his words, worming doubt. Summer heat wave hit like Judgment Day, subways stewing, my apartment a sauna of regrets. The book offer came then, advanced decent, ghostwriter attached, from a publisher chasing true crime chic. I toyed with yes, the memo that broke us, catharsis in print. Sophia resurfaced in the proposal. Her as co-author? Shared story, the editor pitched. I called her, voice tentative over AC hum. You in? Pause then. Only if it's truth, not takedown. We met, first time in months, at a rooftop in Dumbo. Craft beers, skylines sprawling like forgiven sins. She apologized for ghosting. Feared I'd flip like him. Laughter, brittle. We both did. Over IPAs, we outlined Betrayal's anatomy, not just his but ours, enablers turned avengers. Twist, include his letters, unedited, letting readers judge. But the real verdict brewed internal, a jury of one. August, I drove upstate, visitors pass greased by Elena's contacts, Otisville's gates looming like confessionals. Ethan emerged in khakis and polo, leaner, eyes clear minus the gambler's glint. You came. No shackles, just plexiglass dividing us, Mike's humming judgment. We talked halting, prison routines, his AA meetings, the developer who'd suicided pre-sentencing, karma's cold hand. I get it now, he said, palms to glass. You weren't the fool. I was the thief. Stole your trust, your future. I pressed. Why the flips? Sophia, me the lies? He sighed, deflating.
Fear.
Dad's shadow, always performing. You saw through, so I buried it. Vulnerability, or verdict dodging. I countered with my scars, the threats, the doubt, the gun I'd sold back. Revenge freed me, Ethan. But it cost. His eyes welled. Real? Then write it.
The book.
Let them debate us.
Debate.
The words sparked the twist. Our story, no heroes, just humans in the gray. I left with no promises, but lighter. Absolution's whisper. Fall foliage turned the drive home to fire, mirroring the burn. The book deal signed. Manuscript poured out. 80,000 words of raw vein. Launch party in October. Crowded Soho loft. Champagne flutes clinking like gavels. Reviewers split. Gripping takedown versus self-serving sob story. Memo verdict trended. Debates raging. Podcasts pitting Team Amelia against Ethan's redemption. Sophia and I toured, tag-teaming cues. Was it worth it? I'd say. Depends on the jury. Election night that November, city electric with division, I voted alone, then wandered Times Square, billboards flashing like fractured truths. A text from an unknown. Ethan's parole board date. Early release possible. Heart stuttered. Contact? Or cut? I chose middle. A letter. Mailed to Otisville. The book's out. Read it. Decide your own verdict. No plea, just possibility. Winter closed the circle, snow muffling the grind. New Year's Eve, Jess's bash thumping with bass. I slipped out to the fire escape. City below a diamond riot. Phone buzzed. Ethan, via approved channel. Finish the book. You nailed me, flaws and all. Still love the fighter in you. Parole hearing next month. Your words swayed the board.
Swayed?
Influence or intrusion? Debate fodder eternal. Ending? No tidy bow. I hung up the trench, reclaimed my law license, clean slate, pro bono firebrand. Sophia started a podcast, betrayed but not broken.
Ethan?
Paroled spring 27, low-profile gig in compliance, irony's gift. We never met again, but echoes lingered, his charm and my wit, my steel in his step. Was it happy? Tragic? Readers argue in comments, forums aflame. She destroyed a flawed man versus he earned every bar.
Me?
I walk Brooklyn streets, voice memos deleted, secrets aired. Revenge taught. No one's wholly right, wholly wrong, just human, hashing verdicts in the dark. And in America's endless trial, that's the only justice we get.